Post 1. I don't usually write things like this, but it's been sitting heavy on me, and I guess I need to know if I'm holding on to bitterness too long. I, 33F, grew up believing family was supposed to protect you. Instead, mine stripped me of everything the moment they could. My dad died when I was 12. My mum had passed away even earlier, so he was all I had. Losing him was like having the ground pulled out from under me, but it didn't stop there. When my dad died, my paternal relatives swept in like vultures. My grandfather, my uncles, my cousins. They acted like they were just helping. But really, they wanted control. The house I grew up in, they claimed it. My dad's belongings, the little heirlooms from my mum, they divided them up like they were entitled to them. I still remember my aunt telling me, "You're too young to understand. We'll take care of this." What they really meant was, we'll take care of ourselves. I was shuffled off into a cramped spare room at my aunt's house, treated like an afterthought while my cousins got everything new. They got the birthday parties, the sports equipment, the vacations. I got second-hand clothes and constant reminders that I should be grateful. My grandfather covered school fees just enough to keep me afloat, but it always came with lectures about how much of a burden I was. And the worst part, my dad's things, the watch he wore every day, the small photo album he kept of my mum, disappeared into their hands. When I asked, they said, "Oh, those aren't important. Focus on the future," but they were important. They were all I had left of my parents. From the outside, we looked like a big, united family. Inside, I was the scapegoat. My half-cousin, grandfather's other darling granddaughter, was the golden child. She got praise for every minor accomplishment, while I was told I'd never measure up. When she wanted something, it was handed to her. When I wanted something, I was told to earn it myself. I did. I worked after school jobs, saved every penny, scraped through college on scholarships and loans. No one helped. They were too busy bragging about how successful my cousin was, how proud Grandpa was of her internships and travel programs. Meanwhile, if I showed up to a family gathering, it was all fake smiles and little digs. Still struggling? Why don't you move closer to home? Family could help you, if you asked nicely. I stopped asking a long time ago. Fast forward, I've built a decent life. I have a good job, a small apartment that's mine, and friends who feel more like family than my relatives ever did. I don't need them anymore, but I can't shake the bitterness. I keep thinking about everything they took, the house that should have been mine, the belongings that should have been keepsakes. The years they treated me like a burden instead of a child who'd just lost both parents. Now my grandfather has passed away and everyone is circling again. From what I hear, the golden side of the family is expecting to be showered with everything once more. I'm not looking for handouts, I've survived without them, but part of me is still angry. Angry that they stole what little I had left as a child. Angry that they rewrote history to make themselves look like saints, when really they left me with scars. It's been over 20 years, but sometimes I still dream about walking back into that house, opening the closet, and finding my dad's watch where he left it. Then I wake up, and it's gone all over again. So tell me, am I the jerk for still resenting my family for what they did after my dad died? First comment, NTA. They didn't help you, they robbed you when you were a grieving kid. That anger is valid, and I'm glad you've built your own life. Second comment, NTA. You lost both parents, and instead of protecting you, they took everything. Don't let them guilt you for remembering the truth. Update 1. I didn't expect to be pulled back into the family circus, but here we are. A few weeks after my grandfather's funeral, envelopes arrived from his lawyer. Everyone got one: cousins, aunts, uncles. I wasn't expecting anything. Honestly, I figured they'd either forgotten about me or made sure I was cut out completely. But when I opened mine, I had to sit down. The will named me as the primary heir, not my golden cousin, not the uncles who called me a burden, me. It wasn't everything. Grandpa divided some smaller items among others. But the big pieces? the family house, some investments, and most importantly, his personal belongings. They're mine now. I was stunned. I read the letter 3 times just to make sure I wasn't imagining it. After everything they did to me as a kid, after years of being sidelined, suddenly Grandpa had put it in writing that I was the one he wanted to leave things to. The fallout was immediate. My phone started blowing up. A cousin messaged me first. "This has to be a mistake. You're not even around. You're basically not family anymore." Then an aunt called, demanding I be reasonable and split things fairly with the cousins who had always been there. Always been there? They were there because they were the ones being showered with vacations and praise while I was scraping together money to buy groceries. Within hours, I was getting group texts full of anger. "You manipulated him. He wasn't in his right mind. You don't deserve any of this." My half-cousin, the golden child, was the loudest. She sent me paragraph after paragraph about how unfair it was, how she was the one who carried the family name, how Grandpa had always said she'd take over the house. I haven't replied to any of them, not one word. Privately, I think Grandpa knew. He wasn't a perfect man, but he wasn't blind. He saw how they treated me when I was a kid. Maybe he was too passive to stop it at the time, but in the end, he made sure I wasn't left with nothing. Of course, the family is spinning it differently. They're saying I came out of nowhere, that I barely showed up over the years. That part is true, but why would I show up when every visit was a reminder that I didn't belong? The irony is rich. They never wanted me around, but now they're furious that I was the one named in the will. I've spoken with the lawyer and it's all airtight. Grandpa signed it years ago, updated more than once, and it's been witnessed properly. They can throw tantrums, but they can't undo it. Still, the bitterness in their voices. I don't think I've ever heard anything like it. It's almost funny. They used to talk down to me, telling me I'd never amount to anything. Now they're the ones begging me for handouts. I don't know what I'll do with the house or the investments yet. But I do know one thing. I'm not going to let them bully me into giving it away. First comment, NTA. They stole from you as a child, and now they're furious they can't do it again. Your grandfather saw through them and made it right. Second comment, NTA. Don't let them guilt you. They never treated you like family. They only care about money. Hold your ground. Update 2. If I thought the angry texts after the will letters were bad, I hadn't seen anything yet. It's like the entire extended family made me their #1 topic. Every day, it's another call, another message, another thinly veiled threat disguised as advice. They don't even hide what they want anymore. They think I should do the right thing and split everything evenly with my cousins. One uncle called and said, "You know your dad would have wanted you to share." That stung, not because it was true, but because it was the same uncle who boxed up my dad's clothes after the funeral and refused to let me take even a shirt. Now he thinks he can invoke my dad's name to guilt me. Number. The golden cousin has been the loudest, of course. She's blasting me in group chats saying, "You've been gone for years. I kept the family traditions alive. I deserve this house." She even had the nerve to say, "Honestly, you wouldn't even know how to take care of it." Like she's some expert because she got to live comfortably while I was working 2 jobs to survive. What none of them seem to realize is that I've been keeping receipts, literally and figuratively. Over the years, I asked questions about my dad's things, about his accounts, about what happened to the property he owned. They always brushed me off, told me not to worry about it. Now that I've got control, I started digging. And guess what? My suspicions were right. I found records that some of my dad's assets transferred to other family members when I was still a minor. Loans were paid off using his accounts. Property was quietly sold, and the money never reached me. The lawyer confirmed. A lot of it looked shady. Not outright illegal, the paperwork was technically in order, but deeply unethical. They took advantage of me being a kid with no one to fight for me. And now they're panicking, because if I keep looking, I might find even more. At Sunday dinner last week, yes, I made the mistake of going, it turned into an ambush. They said things like, "It's not too late to make this right," and "If you cared about family, you'd share." My golden cousin even said, "Maybe Grandpa only named you because he felt sorry for you. You should honor his true wishes." I laughed out loud. For the first time in years, I wasn't the scared kid in the corner. I told them, "You already took everything from me once. You don't get to do it again." The room went silent. Later that night, I got a string of messages about how disrespectful I was, how I was ruining the family. But privately, a couple of cousins sent quiet texts saying they were glad I finally spoke up. They admitted they always knew I was treated unfairly, but they didn't want to rock the boat. Typical. So here's where I stand. They're demanding I share. I'm digging deeper into the past, and the more I uncover, the more certain I am that my grandfather left things to me for a reason. He knew what they did. He wanted to set it right. I'm not budging. First comment, NTA. They robbed you as a child and now they're trying again as adults. Dig into everything. Shine a light on what they did. Second comment, NTA. Your grandfather clearly saw what happened. You honoring his actual will is the most respectful thing you can do. Don't give in. Update 3. I think the family thought they could corner me into backing down if we all sat in a room together. They called it a family meeting, but really it was an ambush. We gathered at my aunt's house, the same one I'd been forced to live in after my dad died. I hadn't stepped into that living room in years, and being back there was surreal. The floral couch was still there, the one where I used to curl up and cry when I felt invisible. Now I was sitting across from the same people who told me to be grateful while they divided up my dad's things. The golden cousin started things off, acting like she was running the show. She said, "Look, this whole situation is tearing us apart." We all know Grandpa meant well, but clearly there was a misunderstanding. We should be dividing things equally, like he would have wanted. I asked, "And how exactly do you know what he wanted?" She blinked, then muttered something about tradition. That was my opening. I pulled out a folder I'd brought, copies of bank transfers, sales records, and account statements I'd found since the will came through. "You want to talk about what Grandpa wanted?" I said. "Then let's talk about what you all did to me when Dad died." The room went dead quiet. I laid it out. The accounts drained under the guise of loans. The property that disappeared into other relatives' names. The heirlooms that were sold off without anyone telling me. You said you were protecting me. What you were really doing was protecting yourselves. One uncle jumped up, red-faced, yelling that I didn't understand how complicated things were back then. I shot back, "I understood enough to know you kept what didn't belong to you." The golden cousin tried to laugh it off, saying, "This is ancient history. Why bring it up now?" I looked her dead in the eye and said, "Because you keep trying to steal from me again." Voices started rising, people talking over each other. One aunt shouted that I was tearing the family apart. Another accused me of airing dirty laundry. But a couple of quieter cousins, the ones who had texted me privately, looked at the paperwork and went pale. They knew it was real. Word must have gotten out fast because by the next day I was getting messages from people outside the family. Old neighbours, distant relatives, people saying they'd always wondered what happened after my dad died, and now it made sense. Apparently the story had always been that I didn't want my dad's things, that I chose to walk away. Now they knew the truth. I hadn't chosen anything. It had been taken from me. The golden cousin sent me another long message that night, full of rage. She accused me of humiliating her, of turning the community against us. She ended it with, "You'll regret this. You can't fight all of us." For once, her threats didn't scare me. They just proved I'd hit a nerve. I don't know where this is going next. Maybe they'll try to challenge the will in court. Maybe they'll double down on the smear campaign. But here's what I do know. I'm done being silent. They took everything from me once. I won't let them do it again. First comment, NTA. They stole from you as a child and now you've exposed them. Of course they're panicking. Liars always do when the truth comes out. Second comment, NTA. Good on you for bringing receipts. They can scream about family all they want, but you've got proof, and the community is finally seeing what they did. Update 4. I knew they wouldn't back down quietly. The moment word spread through the community, my cousins and uncles started scrambling for a way to take back control. It didn't take long before I got notice that they were challenging the will. Their argument? That my grandfather wasn't of sound mind when he signed it, that he'd been confused and pressured by me, which is laughable because I hadn't spoken to him more than a handful of times in the last decade. They'd been the ones at his side every day. If anyone was in a position to pressure him, it wasn't me. My lawyer was confident. The will had been updated more than once, each time witnessed properly, each time naming me. There was no ambiguity, but still, the weeks leading up to court were stressful. My phone didn't stop buzzing with threats and guilt trips. The golden cousin sent me a voice memo saying, "You're tearing apart everything Grandpa built. You'll regret this when you're all alone." Court day came, and I was shaking as I walked in. They came in a pack, dressed like they were heading to a reunion, not a legal proceeding. My golden cousin glared at me across the room like she could burn holes through me, but the judge didn't buy any of their theatrics. My lawyer laid out the paperwork. 4 separate versions of the will across nearly 10 years, all leaving the major assets to me. Each one signed, dated, witnessed, each one airtight. When it was their turn, their lawyer tried to paint me as some estranged relative who abandoned the family and didn't deserve anything. I wanted to laugh. Abandoned? I'd been a child, forced out of my home, treated like an unwanted guest. If anything, I'd been abandoned by them. The judge saw right through it. He upheld the will in full. Every word of it. The fallout in the courtroom was instant. My aunt burst into tears, wailing that I was destroying the family legacy. My uncle slammed his hand on the table, shouting that I was ungrateful. My golden cousin stormed out, muttering about how this isn't over. But legally, it is. The ruling didn't just secure the house and the investments. It also meant that personal belongings, heirlooms that had been stashed away or claimed by others, had to be returned. My lawyer sent formal notices, and slowly, begrudgingly, items started trickling back to me. I held my dad's watch in my hands for the first time since I was 12. The leather was worn, the face scratched, but it was his. I cried harder than I have in years. The photo album of my mum, the one I thought was gone forever, showed up in a box a week later. I sat on my living room floor, flipping through the pages, feeling like I'd been given a piece of my parents back. They tried to rob me of my past. Now the law had forced them to give some of it back. Of course, they're furious. The texts haven't stopped. "You'll regret this. You'll be cursed. Enjoy your blood money." My golden cousin even posted a rant on Facebook about how I'd manipulated Grandpa in his final years. But the comments weren't what she expected. People pushed back, saying the court ruling was clear, that maybe she should accept it and move on. For the first time, I feel like the tide is turning. They can rage all they want, but they've lost. The will is final. The house is mine. And the things they stole from me as a grieving child are slowly finding their way back where they belong. I didn't think justice was possible in this family, but here it is, in black and white. First comment, NTA. The court saw through their lies, and now you've got proof you were right all along. Enjoy your dad's things. You earned them twice over. Second comment, NTA. It must feel amazing to finally hold your father's watch and photo album again. That's priceless. Don't let their bitterness ruin this victory. Update 5. The court battle might be over, but the noise hasn't stopped. If anything, my relatives have doubled down on gossip and bitterness. According to cousins who still lurk on family Facebook threads, my golden cousin has been telling anyone who will listen that I destroyed the family. She claims I manipulated Grandpa in his final years, that I turned everyone against them. Some people nod along because they've always treated her like the son, But others, especially those who watch the courtroom meltdown, just roll their eyes. They've shifted their strategy now. Since they couldn't win legally, they're leaning hard into emotional manipulation. My aunt called, crying about how Thanksgiving will never be the same if I don't share the house for family gatherings. My uncle texted me a long rant about how money won't hug you when you're old. The best one came from my golden cousin. Fine, keep the house. Nobody even wants it now. It's a burden. You'll regret this when it falls apart around you. This from the same person who was begging me to hand it over 2 months ago. I didn't respond to any of them. Silence is the only language they can't twist. Meanwhile, I've been moving forward. I met with contractors to assess the house, and while it needs some updating, it's solid. For now, I'm keeping it. I don't know if I'll live there permanently, but just having the keys in my pocket feels like a full circle moment. Walking through those rooms, touching the walls, opening closets that once held my dad's things, it's surreal. I've also started sorting through the boxes of returned belongings. Some are worthless junk they tossed back just to spite me, but some are treasures. My mum's necklace, old birthday cards my dad wrote to me, a box of photos I didn't even know existed. Every time I open one, it's like reclaiming a piece of myself they tried to erase. The investment accounts are a different story. I've already spoken with financial advisors, and I'll probably liquidate some of it. I don't need stacks of money sitting in places that will just keep reminding me of the fights. Better to put it toward my future, a place that's mine, trips I want to take, maybe even a scholarship fund in my dad's name. Emotionally, I feel lighter. For years, I carried this gnawing resentment, this feeling that I'd been cheated. Now I know I wasn't crazy, I was cheated. And now, finally, I've taken some of it back. Not everyone understands. A few relatives I actually liked have stayed quiet, clearly uncomfortable. They'll send me the occasional text about hoping for reconciliation. I doubt that'll ever happen. Reconciliation requires accountability, and this family doesn't do accountability, but that's okay. I don't need them anymore. The house, the watch, the photo album, they're not about money. They're about proof. Proof that I wasn't just the unwanted orphan they tried to paint me as. Proof that my dad and my grandfather saw me, even when the rest of the family didn't. I've decided I'm not sharing, I'm not apologizing, and I'm not looking back. First comment, NTA. They can gossip all they want, but the court made it clear, this is yours. Hold your head high and enjoy the peace you've earned. Second comment, NTA. Silence is the best revenge. Let them stew in their bitterness while you rebuild your life with what rightfully belongs to you. Final update. It's been almost a year since the court ruling, and life has settled into something I never thought I'd have, peace. The family noise hasn't stopped completely, but it's faded into the background. Every few months my phone will light up with some rant from an aunt or a cousin, usually about how I owe the family, or how I'll die alone with all that money. But they don't call as often anymore. When they realised I wasn't responding, most of them moved on to gossiping among themselves. The golden cousin, of course, hasn't let it go. She posts constant little jabs online, photos in front of new houses with captions like, "Some people inherit, some people earn." But it doesn't sting the way it used to. I just scroll past and shake my head. She can posture all she wants. At the end of the day, she's the one scrambling for attention while I'm building a life. And that's the difference now. I finally feel like I'm building something instead of surviving. I've kept the house. At first, I wasn't sure if I wanted to live there, but after months of renovations, it feels like mine again. The floral couch is gone, the carpet's replaced, the walls painted bright. I've carved out spaces that are filled with my things, not the ghosts of what they left behind. My favourite part is the small office I made upstairs, where I keep my dad's watch in a glass box on the desk. When I'm working and I glance over at it, I feel like he's with me. Some of the investments I liquidated. I used part of the money to pay off my student loans, a weight that's been hanging around my neck for years. Another portion went into savings, and another I donated in my dad's name. I set up a small scholarship fund for local kids who've lost a parent, because I know exactly how isolating and unfair that feels. It's not huge, but it's something, and it feels like healing. The photo albums, the necklace, the birthday cards, I keep those in a special chest. Some nights I open it, light a candle, and sit with them. For so long, I thought those pieces of my parents were gone forever. Having them back feels like closing a wound I'd been carrying since childhood. And the best part, I'm not alone anymore. Around the time all this was happening, I met someone. She's kind, steady, and funny in a way that makes my stomach hurt from laughing. We took things slow at first, but she's been with me through every meltdown, every legal letter, every late-night panic. She's helped me see that my worth isn't tied to how my family treated me. We're planning a trip together later this year, just us, somewhere sunny and far away from all this drama. It still hits me sometimes how different things are now. A year ago, I was dreading every message, every phone call, wondering how far they'd go to keep squeezing me out. Now, I wake up in a house that's mine, with proof of my parents' love around me, and the knowledge that no matter how much they scream, they can't take it back. My family is still bitter. They probably always will be. But bitterness isn't power. They've lost their grip on me. I can finally say it. I have peace. I have peace. I have peace.